All right, welcome to another edition of Together, where we talk with young professionals throughout Wayne County that are making a difference. We've taken a different method here. We are now Zoom video here with Dawn Sonsini, Northeastern Middle School principal, to talk a little bit about her and then also what she's been going through overall. So could you give us a quick bio of who Dawn Sonsini is?
I sure can. Thanks, Mark, for having me. I am a Wayne County native. I grew up here. I'm a graduate of Richmond High School, class of 2000. Then I went on to Butler University to get my degree in elementary education. My family and I live here in Richmond. My husband is a PE health teacher at Richmond High School and also the head varsity football coach. And then we have three daughters, Madison, who's in 7th grade at Hibbert. We have a 3rd grader, Ashton, at Charles Elementary, and then our youngest, Kennedy, is in preschool at True Blood.
Fantastic. So I guess the first thing would be, can you talk a little bit about your career path and how you got to your current role that you are today?
Absolutely. So I've always had a dream of being a teacher. I can remember being younger and having my siblings play along as I played school. And then my senior year at Richmond, I cadet taught at Baxter. At the time, it was the elementary school, and I spent half my day there. And so that kind of affirmed that I did want to go into education. And then I transitioned to Butler and was there for 3.5 years and earned a degree in elementary education with endorsements, in kindergarten and middle school Spanish. And so I was excited to return to the area and teach at Fairview Elementary School. I taught there for almost 10 years. I was first hired on as a Title I interventionist and then later became a kindergarten teacher, but really enjoyed my time there at Fairview. Not only the students, but the families and the staff, just a true family atmosphere, and I loved it. However, I did want to challenge myself, and I continued my education. I went back to school and earned my graduate degree in educational leadership from IU. And then at that time, there was an elementary assistant principal opening at Northeastern. And so I changed the pace of what I was doing and left the teaching role and entered into building leadership. And so I had my first experience at the elementary. I was there 2 years. My mentor was Sam Pritchard, and he was a great principal that I was able to learn from. Later on, an opportunity came available where our junior senior high split into 2 buildings. And so at the time, Dr. Blessing was looking for a principal to lead the middle school, and I jumped in. I was ready for it. We created something that hadn't ever existed before. And so creating that middle school concept along with hiring team of just dedicated teachers was fun. It was exciting to me. And so I've really enjoyed that. I've been there 6 years, believe it or not. So I've been there 8 years total at Northeastern. And again, I was at Richmond 10 years. And then I recently went back to school and finished a second graduate degree. It's an educational specialist degree. So super excited that I'm an ISU grad now, effective here in a few weeks.
So ISU, so you and Larry Bird are the most popular then alumni.
Yeah, the program was awesome there. I will say I knew a few people, but it's kind of a haul from Richmond. And what drew me into the program was something called IPLI, which is the Indiana Principal Leadership Institute. And I joined it 2 years ago. And the first year is all about developing my capacity as a leader. And then the second year, you take 2 teachers with you. They're your teacher leaders, and you engage in action research with them. So all along as I'm going through this process, I'm also taking classes on the side. So it really was energizing. One of the outcomes that our action research we presented on is the idea of teachers going into other teachers' classroom and seeing best practices and then just creating a more collaborative learning environment. So I was really excited. We actually Zoom presented, recorded that, and submitted it last week.
That's great. So I actually graduated from ISU also, so I was very happy when I learned that about you. So what's your favorite part of
Aw,
your job?
the kids, absolutely. I love the kids. That's what's always drawn me into the profession. I love being around them, as crazy as they are at the middle school level. They're fun. You never know what they're going to say or what they're going to do, but just that opportunity to coach them and believe in them sometimes when they have no one else believing in them. And so I think that's what drives me. It's my why. It's why I go to work every day.
What would be your least favorite part of your job?
Least favorite part of my job, anything I take home. I try really hard to balance things, and I know that's another question you'll probably ask me, but I try to get it all done at school, but it a lot of times carries over. And so I wish I could just turn it off when I get home, but that's just not my personality.
I have the exact same issue, so I know where you are coming from there. So over the last 6 months, we have faced the COVID-19 pandemic. It's started in China, and it's just kept getting closer, closer, and now it is here. When did you truly realize the severity of what that was going to play in your daily job?
Well, I was hearing about it, but in the daily hustle, I really didn't stop until I remember getting a call from central office, and Dr. Blessing asked that all of the administrators come and meet. And so it was at that moment that it was like, okay, this has never happened before. We've never had the health department close school for a few weeks. And so I think that was the first, like, this is more serious than I had ever taken it. And then I think the second piece to that, funny enough, Tony and I were out in the yard doing a bunch of yard work. And I remember coming in, and my phone had just blown up. I had text messages and people calling me, and our admin staff was getting on a Zoom. And so I quickly jump on the Zoom. I haven't showered or anything. I've just come in from all my planting of flowers. I jump on the Zoom, and evidently I had missed Governor Holcomb's announcement that school was closed for the remainder of the year. And so I thought, wow, here I am, the building principal, been in the yard, come in, and it's like the whole world had been turned upside down. So I think for me, hearing the health department put some things in place, but then when Governor Holcomb came in and said, you aren't returning for the rest of the year, that was that aha moment to me that, like, whoa, this is really serious. Like, we're going to have to change how we've done business. And so, I think from that moment, just now, it seems like we're in a new normal. We're getting weekly updates from our state superintendent. Obviously, I'm watching the news. I'm listening to Governor Holcomb, our president, all of those things. So I feel like the new normal is starting to set in, but definitely coming in from yard work and realizing that school was not going to happen for the rest of the year was the aha moment.
So when that happened, that would most definitely is very startling, because you go to work, you're on the weekend, next thing you know, everything is upside down. How have you handled changing the teaching methods, not being able to see the students, not being able to see your staff?
Absolutely. Well, I'm definitely a people person. I'm a high fiver or a fist bump person or hugs. And so it's definitely changed that feeling of connectedness. But I can't thank our staff enough. I mean, the Northeastern middle school teachers that we have are amazing. They're collaborative. They brainstorm ideas. I was involved in some TikTok challenges, believe it or not. We had a virtual assembly. We raised over $1,000 to build a well in South Sudan for the Iron Giraffe Challenge. And we always do a pie in the face. The kids raise money. And so instead of being in person, we did it. We created a video. So again, I just think our teachers have done an outstanding job of thinking outside the box. Initially, we did daily Zoom meetings with kids. They were optional. Kids could check in. And that was kind of fun because, the kids were very transparent about things that they were doing, hanging out around the house, watching TV, video gaming. I think at the time we were trying to get some skunks out from underneath our deck. And so just being very transparent with the kids, we joked around me living in the city, them living in the country. They told me all about how to get rid of skunks. But it was fun to have those just natural conversations with kids, for sure. One thing that I love doing is I like writing notes to people. I'm a handwriting note person. And so over the break, there were certain kids that I just wanted to check in with and or staff. And so I made a commitment to myself to write those on a daily basis. And so it's exciting to get mail back from kids or staff members. I got a note today from one of my teachers, and those things are exciting and energizing to me. So those are some things that we initially did. Now we're in the groove of the e-learning assignments. I don't think it's too much work, but it's enough just to keep the kids connected and ultimately just to check in with them. So definitely I'm missing my hugs because I love that about my job is the fist bump or the high fives as kids are leaving the building. And so, the new normal is the home visits, whether it's distributing food or just to check in or drop something off. Those are things that now are the new normal. But it's fun to see their faces, the kids, when you pull up to the house and they're in the door and they're like, oh my gosh, it's really my principal. I'm like, yep, it's me. Come on out. Let's say hi, So obviously practicing social distancing, but it's the new normal. One thing I'm super proud of is we had a few students that usually will go to Union County and compete in an academic Super Bowl. But since the closure, they did it virtually. And so we've had a few kids this past week who logged in, prepared at home, got ready for all the questions, and then participated in the online platform. So that was really exciting to me that the kids had that grit and perseverance to get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. And the times like this, you have students, I'm sure, that are quiet in the classroom, and now you've learned about them in other capacities. Like you're talking about, you probably have students telling you how to get rid of skunks out of your desk. You wouldn't get that on a normal basis.
Probably not.
So as a mother and an educator, looking back on this time, 5 years, 1 year, 5 years, 30 years, when your children are having children, grandchildren, way down the line, how will this time be remembered? But most importantly, how will this time right here have changed education moving forward?
Sure. Well, definitely the family time, being able to reconnect in a way with my husband and my kids that the normal hustle doesn't allow. And so I think my focus has been being present, and I feel like we've done a nice job of doing that. My husband and I are able to run again together in the mornings, which is nice. We've done some hiking and creeking at Earlham, lots of art projects with the Sonsini girls. Like I said, our yard is looking pretty good. I don't think it's looked this good in about 10 years. So super excited about, the opportunity to split hostas and move some things around, make the deck look good, plant some grass seeds, start the garden. I've also, believe it or not, allowed my kids to convince me to get a puppy. And so this is a few weeks away still, but we put a deposit down and we are going to be getting a puppy here. So we are training the girls on what to expect. We did have a dog that passed away earlier this fall. And so I had held off as long as I could. So it seems like lots of people these days are getting puppies. But yeah, that's kind of the new normal. I'm still trying to figure out like Zoom with dance classes and cheerleading with my kiddos. And my 4-year-old today dragged me through a Twinkle Stars class. And so I made it, but it's definitely not my thing. So it's funny how you can, the new schedule, it's like I have to write everything down on the Zooms. I got to make sure I have this Zoom at this time. It's with, the staff at Northeastern, or this Zoom is dance class or cheer. So I have a notebook and I write it all down. And it's nice. My kids have the best teachers, to be able to check in with them, phone calls, Zoom calls with them. It's exciting to hear my children talk to their teachers and just be down to earth. The other part is home visits for football players. Since my husband's that head football coach at Richmond, we got to make sure those boys are working out and in the weight room and doing all that. So, we do some drive-bys and encourage kids to get their grades up and throw the football around a little bit. So that's been exciting. For sure. And then in terms of just education and how it's changed, we started e-learning this past year at Northeastern, and I feel like that in itself has been so important. I don't feel like we're training the kids on how to use the platform. Canvas is what we use. They already know that, and we do such a nice job of having blended learning and using some online platforms during the school day that really it was more for us talking to the kids about, here's the schedule. So here's what class you need to log in each day, to check in. And just motivation. It's hard. And so we did create a Google form for the families that I send out each week, and they can check in with us and say, hey, can you send an encouraging email, or can you do a visit to my home for my kiddo? So kudos to all the families, because I know it's not hard. I do hope that, you see and can appreciate the role of a teacher, because it's hard right now at home when I'm the principal hat and also e-learning for 3 girls and being a wife. So I understand what that feels like, to have that stress right now. But again, kudos to all the families, because it is tough. And, but we sure do appreciate everything that they're doing to keep their kids connected.
Yeah, and you've talked about your involvement in raising a family with your kids, and then your husband is busy all the time as well. How do you balance that personal, professional activities time that you have, being so active? That's something that it seems that young professionals struggle with a lot, and you just get into like that to be your new norm. So how do you balance both of those?
Yeah, this is a hard one for me. It really is. I've had mentors say that you just have to turn it off when you leave work. And that doesn't necessarily work for me, but I think it's partly just my energy. I'm a very passionate person. I'm dedicated. And I also want my kids to see that. So there are times that they see mommy working, but I also think that makes them better people too, and that they'll learn to be able to manage. And so I do use every minute of every day. I try to maximize it to my fullest. I've got a great support system with my family, my parents, my in-laws. But, there are times that Tony will say to me, you just got to turn it off. And so, he threatens to take a device away, but usually I'm pretty good once he gives me that threat to say, hey, let's connect. But with kids and different activities, I remember this fall when Madison was in volleyball season. And then even in basketball, there were times Tony would drive to the away games. I'd be working on my laptop in the car. We'd get to the game. I'd enjoy it. And then we get back in the car, and during that travel time, I'd get it done. So the other thing is just waiting until the kids go to bed. I always like to start the day fresh. And so there's a piece of me that doesn't want to leave anything undone. I like to finish each day and know that I've given it my best. And I know that I have people relying on me, whether it's students or family or staff members. And so, making a daily commitment to respond to the text messages or respond to an email, I feel like those are important things to show people that I do care, and that I'm there to help. So, but like I said, I'm not perfect at that. So definitely have room to grow. I think the other thing is just, my husband's been a coach for quite a few years in a few different school systems. And with football, I just honestly, Mark, I load up the kids and we head to the football field, and towards the end of practice, we're there. And I always joke with Tony, we have no boys and we're having no more children. So he has 3 girls. His football team is his boys. And so we joke about that. They're also our boys. That's the closest I'm going to get to having a boy. And I've learned a lot about high school boys this past year. But they're sweet, and we really have enjoyed it. So, I think our family is just dedicated to kids. And so that's something that I'm proud of, is that both Tony and I have that heart and vision to help people.
Absolutely. So you have been raised here, from here. Why do you think it's so important for employers to hire young professionals that are from here?
So it definitely is important. I think it's part of pride, in our community and wanting to give back. And I feel like as a student here, growing up, so many mentors, people in the community, whether it was my church family or whether it were my teachers, coaches. There were just so many people that influenced me and believed in me through my journey that it was important for me to give back. And I know that we all have an opportunity. I remember interviewing in the Indianapolis area because I was a Butler grad, and then also interviewing in Richmond. And there's just a part of me, again, that it's the roots. It's where my family is. It's where my parents are. And that's important to me. So coming back to the area and starting a family, there's lots of connections, people. And I think that also is fun that, people see you as, they see you still as a child sometimes, but then they also see you doing great things out in the community. So I know some of my parents' friends remember me as, Dawn Fleener, and I did this or attended my graduation party, but now here she is as a principal. And so I think there's that growing up, but it's so nice to see familiar faces and know even when, how to connect with someone. If you need something, people are just so much more generous. And so I really appreciate the opportunity to come back and give back to Wayne County.
And then last but not least, what would be one piece of advice that you would give to other young professionals?
So one of my favorite authors is John Gordon, and he wrote a book called The Energy Bus. And in that book, he talks about 10 rules that fuel the ride of your life. And so I know you told me one, Mark, but I want to read the 10 rules because this is something my first year as a middle school principal that I used as a guiding force in creating our school and staff culture. And so I will read those to you. I jotted them down. Number 1, remember you're the driver of the bus. Number 2, desire, vision, and focus move your bus in the right direction. Number 3, fuel your ride with positive energy. Number 4, invite people on your bus and share your vision for the road ahead. Number 5, don't waste your energy on those who don't get on your bus. Number 6, post a sign that says no energy vampires allowed on your bus. Number 7, enthusiasm attracts more passengers and energizes them during the ride. Number 8, love your passengers. Number 9, drive with purpose. And 10, have fun and enjoy the ride.
It does not get any more simpler and good as that right there. I will agree with you on that.
Absolutely.
Well, Dawn, thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with me and also Hype Wayne County to talk about young professionals, also educators throughout the community. The COVID-19 pandemic has completely shifted everything that everyone does, no matter what your job is. I come from a family that had teachers, still has teachers. My friends are teachers. I have a friend that's also a principal now, so I know how thankful I am and also how much Hype is also for everything that you and your staff are doing for our children, helping shape the future.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Right. Thank you. And we'll see you next time on another edition of Together.